I'm Suzanne Larson from the Airmen and Family Readiness Center at Minot Air Force Base, and welcome to Tips and Tricks for Sponsors and Sponsorship Programs. We know that the first impression that members typically get regarding their new assignment comes directly from their sponsor, which proves how vital being a good sponsor and having a robust and welcoming sponsorship program is. Sponsorship is ultimately a commander's program. However, he or she relies on a variety of other unit members or agencies to implement and carry out the responsibilities of the sponsorship program. These include the sponsor themselves, who provides that vital first impression to the incoming member, the CSS, who assigns that sponsor and directs them to the site for the e-training on becoming a sponsor, the Airmen and Family Readiness Center, who trains the CSS staff on a quarterly basis on sponsorship responsibilities, the Welcome Center that provides the streamlined one-stop in-processing event to get members embedded into their units as soon as possible, and finally, the unit leadership who set the overall tone and standards for their sponsorship program. So there are a lot of moving pieces and parts that have to come together to make sponsorship succeed. Today, we have representatives from two of Minot Air Force Base's best sponsorship programs to share some of their tips and tricks with you. So would you please introduce yourselves and tell us what squadron you're representing?
Hi, so I'm Captain Eric Ruth from the 54th Helicopter Squadron.
And I'm Tech Sergeant Rachel Calloway from the 5th Security Forces Squadron.
Thank you. So could you please just tell us how you carry out or manage your sponsorship program? So what's kind of just a general overview? Captain Ruth, do you want to start?
I'd love to. So we actually fairly recently modified how we were conducting our sponsorship program. We now have if you think of it as a newcomer flight that we stood up. So everybody who's coming into the unit immediately goes to this first flight, and we decided the most obvious way for us to handle the sponsorship program would be through that flight's leadership. That way we have a single point of contact for any officers or enlisted coming into the unit, and we have much better tracking as far as who has been contacted, where they are in their training, how far out should we be expecting them. And by keeping all of our sponsors kind of within the same core 3 or 4 individuals, we're now able to, as a team, work together to make sure we're always keeping our incoming members up to date as they get closer to their actual PCS date.
Thank you. And Sergeant Calloway, how about for 5th Security Forces?
Well, so we pretty much carry out our sponsorship program. You know, once we get notification that we have a member that is coming to our unit, we'll usually try to track them at least 3 months in advance and go ahead and send out a welcome letter with important information. And, you know, we request information from them as well so that we can communicate. We also have like an on-call phone that they can call us or text us at any time. We also have a tracker as well to make sure that we're maintaining, you know, month by month and then week by week for when they do travel and basically come to our unit. We do have a few people that assist into the program, not just with CSS. We also rely on the A&FRC, people that work in our office, to basically reach out to these folks and make sure that they are feeling loved pretty much when they get here and before they get here.
All right, thank you. So it sounds like we're all operating from the same basic premise of the sponsorship program, but each of your squadrons have adapted your individual programs to be kind of in line with the culture of your unit and provide the warmest welcome to your newcomers, which is ultimately what leads to a successful program. We do know that one of the challenges is making contact with inbound members prior to arrival. What would you say has been the most successful for you in contacting the members before they arrive? Sergeant Calloway, do you want to start?
So I think one of the most successful aspects of getting in contact with them, let's say, for example, people that are overseas, One aspect that we have used, that if we cannot reach them through email, we usually will go through Global to find out where their CSS and get in touch with their CSS and have the members contact us. If that doesn't work and we're not hearing back from them, we've reached out to social media to try to reach out to them and get back with us as well, which I think is very successful because by any means that we know, it works.
Great. Thank you. Captain Ruth, have you had a similar experience?
Fairly similar. One thing that we have a little differently than Sergeant Calloway mentioned is we have a lot more first-term airmen and pilots showing up. So one thing that we've found works very well is just using personal cell phones. We'll reach out to them, like she mentioned, any way you can, government email, if they have a personal email or cell phone on file, just sending that as much information into them initially, and then allowing the individual who's coming in to choose whichever communication method they're most comfortable with. That way, if they're comfortable talking to us, however they are is easiest for them, it sets the tone just to make them feel more at ease. That way they'll ask whatever questions they have later on.
Thank you. So let's talk for a moment about how we provide the warm welcome to our base. What do you think is the most important element when welcoming a newcomer to Minot Air Force Base? Captain Ruth?
One of the most important elements that we found is just, again, establishing that early and often communication. That way they have as much time as possible to plan ahead. Obviously, PCSing is always a very stressful life event, and all of the COVID requirements have not made that any easier on anybody trying to come in over the summer months. So as much as we can give them ahead of time, just a map of the town, places to eat when they show up to town, places where they can go grocery shopping, anything that we can give them ahead of time so that they can plan out their life a month or two in advance. We found that that's making the entire process a lot easier for them, as well as having that single point of contact that they can route any of their questions to. That way we're not trying to have them contact a ton of different agencies. They can just ask us that they've already been talking to for hopefully 3, 4, 5 months already. And then we can funnel out the questions and keep them updated as we get the information to feed back to them. Overall, just providing early, often communication with that single point. That way everything is easier for the incoming member.
Thank you. And how about you, Sergeant Calloway, for security forces?
I think the captain pretty much said everything. PCS is very stressful, whether you're a tech school or first-time PCS, even for career airmen, because you're not knowing where to go, what to do, who to contact. And I think the sponsorship program alleviates a lot of that stress off of the member coming in. I think one of the important elements is building that rapport with that member. That way it gives them a little peace of mind once they're coming in, and they know they can count on our section to make it a smooth transition as possible. Once again, I think that rapport and, like the captain said, communication is the biggest key.
That makes sense. Thank you. I know, Captain Ruth, you mentioned some of the things you provide is a map of the general area, list of restaurants to eat. I think there are some really good resources out there. The Chamber of Commerce down in the city of Minot itself has a lot of great information to share. Is there anything else in particular you'd like to mention that you provide to your sponsor or to your newcomers when they're coming into Minot?
So a couple of the things that we definitely provide them, we have a fairly robust welcome packet that we've been continuously modifying, especially as more and more COVID guidance comes out. That way they have the most up-to-date information. One of the things we make sure to mention and really harp on is using that Team Minot app. It provides very good information and a lot of context that if they do need to go to any base agency directly, they're not trying to go through different websites or anything. It's all that in that one easy to reference location for them. And then lastly, any of our first term guys, it's a little thing, but it seems to help out a lot is getting a mailing address for them so we can send them unit patches ahead of time. That way, even while they're at tech school, they're already starting to feel a part of the unit as we're trying to build that trust and camaraderie with them.
Thank you. Any other resources from security forces that you're able to provide to members, or did we cover everything?
That Team Minot was a big thing that we mentioned to members before they come in, because it does provide a lot of the phone numbers and good point of contacts. Also, the North Dakota roads, considering we let them know, like especially if they're coming in during the winter months, what to expect and know ahead of time. Hey, these roads might be blocked off or snowed in or whatever might be going on with that road, so they can figure out ahead of time, you know, a better plan, especially if they're driving in. We make arrangements all the time up until the point that before they get on their flight here to their hotel, you know, just providing important information to them so that they, like I said, make an easy transition here and they don't have any hiccups. And if they can't do it, we try to reach out and make it happen as well.
Thank you. Great suggestions. There are so many resources that are available to our incoming members. I'm sure that they appreciate receiving any of that information as they learn to navigate their new assignment. I do have one final question for you, and that is there any one particular thing that you have found is most successful with your program that you would want other sponsors, other CSSs, or unit leadership to know as they begin to build up their programs?
So I'd say for the helicopter squadron, the best thing that we've found that works for us is we're able to capitalize on the fact that we have a very small unit and we have a very slow trickle, if you will, of incoming individuals. So that allows us to have that single point of contact for everybody, which allows us as the sponsors to then continuously go through and update the process of how we're doing things. And then as people ask questions, it's like, well, everyone else is probably having the same question, so we can immediately put that information out to everybody. So I'd say the biggest thing is figuring out how your unit is set up as far as when new people come in, how long are you keeping them in different areas, and then finding a way to adapt your process to take the most advantage of the situation that your unit has.
Thank you. That's a great tips from a smaller unit. And Sergeant Calloway, you have a larger unit. So is there any one particular tip you'd like to share with us to make your sponsorship, that makes your sponsorship program as robust and vital as it can be?
So we, as you said, we do have a very large squadron. I think having a lot of patience is very key, especially when we get in one day, maybe 8 people in one time or 2 people in on another time. I think teamwork especially is a very important thing. Basically, I can sit here and feed off my coworkers and we know what each other wants to get done, and we work as a team to ensure it's just as smooth as in processing them. And then definitely communication is a big key. Just speaking to each other, and like I said, it goes into that whole teamwork, especially for a big unit.
Thank you so much. And Captain Ruth and Sergeant Calloway, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your expertise with us. You shared so many great takeaways that new sponsors or those who've recently been tasked with managing a sponsorship program can implement from your tips to ensure that their programs are a success. Sponsors, CSSs, unit leadership, if you have additional questions about sponsorship, please feel free to reach out to one of the units that was represented today or to the Airmen and Family Readiness Center at 723-3950, or you can reach us via email at 5fss.family.support@us.af.mil. Thank you.